Line. Brought to you by Kellogg's, the folks who bring the best to you each morning. The widest choice of cereals in the forms you like best. Yours from Kellogg's of Battle Creek. Now let's all play What's My Line?
And now let's meet our award-winning panel of What's My Line. First, the delightful star of stage and television, Miss Arlene Francis.
And now one of our very liveliest of young comedians, who is opening this week in the Marilyn Monroe Starrer, Let's Make Love, Tony Randall.
Thank you, Arlene. It is my privilege to introduce a charming and lovely young lady who has become a legend in two fields, both TV and journalism, the incredibly accomplished Dorothy Kilgallen.
Since I know his wife, I know that the gentleman that I'm about to introduce is very qualified to discuss and judge beauty. And he is about to go to Atlantic City to become one of the official judges of the Miss America contest. He will hate every minute of it, but he's doing his duty as an American. Mr. Bennett, Cerf.
Well, we've got a cushion tonight. We can't possibly get into as much trouble as all those beautiful young television girls who give the weather, who predicted today was going to be a perfect day in New York. How wrong they were. We can't be that bad. Well, here is our polysyllabic master of ceremonies, John Charles Daly.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's My Line. Nice to have Tony Randall back with us again. Nice to know that Bennett's going to judge a beauty contest. Nice to know it for Bennett, anyway. And we're up to our old tricks. We'll see if we can't puzzle the panel thoroughly in the next half hour. We'll also have a famous mystery guest a little bit later in the program, and we'll meet our first challenger after this one. And now let's meet our first contestant. Will you enter and sign in, please? Robert? Robert Bryden, right, sir? Where are you from, Mr. Bryden?
Edinburgh, Scotland.
Edinburgh, Scotland. Right. Well, now, that's wonderful. As you can see, a lot of Americans seem to have a Scottish background, and proud they can be of it, too. That's a fine bit of a bouquet you have in your lapel there, too.
It's supposed to be lucky. I hope it is.
What is it, heather?
White heather.
White heather? Oh,
Yes.
That's fine. Mr. Bryden, may I present the panel? Would you join me over here, please, sir? Coming from Scotland, are you aware of our scorekeeping system? Do you know how we keep score on What's My Line?
Yes, I've watched it from London.
Ah, fine. Well, it's the same basic system, actually, as they do it in London. And so we'll now let the audience in the theater and those who are watching at home know exactly what your line is. All right. Panel, we will tell you that Mr. Bryden is salaried, and to be absolutely fair, I would have to tell you also that he deals in a service and in a product, because the product is very closely connected with the service. With that information in hand, let's begin the general questioning with Arlene Francis.
Do you work indoors, Mr. Bryden?
Sometimes.
Is the product that is necessary to your service a product that would be used in America?
Yes.
Is it a product that a housewife might have?
Yes, I think they might.
Would it be found in the home, then?
No.
Some housewife.
Yes, I would say
a traveling housewife.
That the product, as Mr. Bryden deals with it, I think we would have to agree would not be found in the home as a product which he himself is very familiar with. That's 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Randall.
Is this a product which can easily be held by a grown man?
Some of them.
Some of the products or some of the grown men?
Some of the products.
Some of the products can be easily held by a grown man. They would have to be large, strong men, I take it.
Well, some of them. Now we're talking about the men.
Is this a manufactured product?
No.
2 down and 8 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Mr. Bryden, is this product alive or has it ever been alive?
It's alive.
Would it be considered in the animal kingdom?
Yes.
Does it have any legs?
Yes.
Well, that's not so funny, you know. Does it have 4? Or do any of them have 4 legs?
Yes.
They are limited to 4 legs. They don't have 6. Would you... You have said that a housewife might have one of these. Would it therefore be a domesticated animal?
Yes.
Would it be an animal found on a farm?
Yes.
Is it bigger than a baby pig?
Sometimes.
Could it be the same size as a baby pig sometimes?
Sometimes.
Is it in any way a pig?
Yes.
You have something to do with pigs? You have something to do with pigs?
It's a pig.
It's a pig.
And a quote.
Pigs is pigs.
Do you, Mr. Bryden, do you raise pigs?
No.
That's 3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Do you process pigs in some way, Mr. Bryden?
No.
4 down and 6 to go, Miss Francis.
Do you check them for any kind of diseases? Do you test them in any way?
No.
5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Randall.
Do you represent them?
Do I look like one?
No to that, absolutely.
No, what I meant was, are you, generally speaking, in the pig business, out selling or doing something with pigs? Well, obviously you are. Are you in America on the pig business?
Yes.
Heaven knows we've got them.
That's an anti-American remark.
No, it's an anti-pig remark.
It's neither. Actually, we have loads of them, particularly in the Middle West.
Not in Secaucus anymore.
No, not
let's
in
see.
the caucus anymore.
Do you sell pigs?
Yes.
Do you sell more one part of the pig than another?
No, actually, I think I ought to throw all the cards over because we're looking for one word, but you have a...
Bacon?
Beg pardon?
Bacon?
Bacon? Oh, a
Sausage?
fine English author, Bacon, but not a Scotsman, he.
Pig fancier.
Butchering?
A pig fancier?
Does he butcher them?
Does he butcher them? Is he a
Judge?
judge? No, but he's an auctioneer. What? Oh!
Could we hear him auction a pig, Mr. Bryden? How do
Would
you
you,
auction
would
a
you do
pig?
an auction? Suppose you just pretend you're auctioning.
Don't look at Daly and make believe you're auctioning.
Look at Bennett. You'll be inspired.
Well, there's a typical Yorkshire boar there.
You're right. Absolutely right. You'll never live that down. Couldn't have chosen a better word to describe Bennett. A Yorkshire boar. Actually, he's a Westchester boar, but you were very close.
He said a typical Yorkshire boar.
Yes, that's the word I couldn't stand.
Isn't it marvelous that Mr. Blyden is the first auctioneer who's been audible, that you can understand? They all run words together, but you really speak English, don't you? I mean, when you auction.
Oh, no, he didn't do the auctioning.
You didn't.
He didn't do the biddly, 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 biddly. Did you?
Tell Bennett.
Well, maybe
You
he
just said
doesn't.
there's a Yorkshire boar, but
Typical,
but you didn't get rid of it.
Well, wait a minute.
Well, we'll get rid of him quick enough. Anybody give me $200 for him?
He's still
I
speaking
see.
out.
You do it entirely differently.
I will.
We have a sort of a tradition, actually. I don't know whether it's more legend than anything else, but There's a tradition in this country. Auctioneers always talk us out of gobbledygook. You know, that sort of thing. You don't do that in Scotland.
I pride myself they can all understand what I'm talking about.
Why, you're good. This is a revolution that will upset everything for years. Let me just say that Mr. Brighton's dad, and I think your granddad before you were auctioneers, too, and he is here for the National Barrow Show in Austin, Minnesota. Actually going to be with us for several months.
Several weeks.
Several weeks. We were hoping it would be several months. It's been great fun having you with us, and thanks very much for being a guest.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's a fine night, if I do say so. Let's see what we can do with the next challenger. Would you enter and sign in, please? Margaret O'Neill, right? Is it Miss or Mrs.?
It's Mrs. O'Neill.
Mrs. O'Neill, and where are you from?
Well, I live mostly in New York.
Well, then I guess you're from New York presently, then.
Thank
All
you,
righty,
Mr.
fine. May I present our panel? Mrs. O'Neill. You join me over here, please, ma'am. Do you know how we keep score on What's My Line?
Yes, I do.
And we'll let the audience in the theater and those looking in at home know exactly what your line is. All right, panel. Mrs. O'Neill is salaried and deals in a service. And we'll let our little old Yorkshireman start things off.
Mrs. O'Neill, may I assume that you have nothing to do with either boars of any kind or pigs?
Not directly, no.
Not directly. Does the service you perform, is that executed for human beings?
Yes, it is.
For adults rather than children?
For both.
For all?
Well, now here, actually the direct connection, Bennett, because I think we need to clarify here, is the basic service is for adult, but its effect as the pebble is dropped in the water and the ramifications come in, then you would find a larger community among which there would be children.
I see, thank you. Does the service you perform, Mrs. O'Neill, require some special training on your part before you can perform it?
Yes, yes.
Does this mean some kind of a degree?
Yes, it does, yes.
No, now here again, with your permission, actually the service itself does not specifically require a degree, so we have to give you a no on that. It does require, as almost any important function that is assigned to a human being, it does require an element of training, understanding, knowledge, experience, but it's just in that broad term rather than the specific graduate work in a school. That's 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Francis.
Does education have anything to do with what you do, Miss O'Neill?
Yes, it does.
Do people come to you for this service?
Well, I think we would have to agree to get the service ultimately. The people who would get it would initially have to come to certainly the locus in which you would find Mrs. O'Neill.
Does that mean that Mrs. O'Neill would then send these people off someplace else to have the job fulfilled for them?
Well, there we are. Sometimes you can't possibly, and one of these times is right now. Mrs. O'Neill might well, as a matter of performing her functions properly, determine that a sending off was necessary, but this is not to say that she would not have an immediate and constant and persistent interest in that part of the service.
What did he say?
I don't know, but are these people well that come to see you?
Yes.
Are they better off as a result of whatever this service is?
I would say when they come to that status where they are particularly the target of Mrs. O'Neill's service, they are much better off.
Is this a service that any of us on the panel might ever use?
Yes, there certainly was a time, wouldn't you say?
Is this a service that can help us from a standpoint of advice or training of some kind?
Well, I would say that the service that Mrs. O'Neill gives, and I'm sorry to have to move in and try to clarify here because these answers are of necessity rather complex. Certainly, if you were the instant subject of Mrs. O'Neill's service, you would be improved in education, well-being, experience, knowledge, etc., etc., etc.
Well, in that case,
Thank you.
does Mrs. O'Neill have anything to do with religion?
No.
No. 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Randall.
The field of education was mentioned, and I didn't understand. Is that the field Mrs. O'Neill is in?
It is an area in which we can feel that Mrs. O'Neill has an opportunity to do service if such opportunity presents itself, but it is not the specific responsibility.
Don't let me.
Mrs. O'Neill, do you touch the people who come to you?
No.
3 down and 7 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Mrs. O'Neill, do you work indoors more than outdoors?
I work indoors and outdoors both.
Would you say that your work was more mental than physical?
Yes.
If we saw you doing your work in the costume in which you do your work, would it be any clue?
No, no.
4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mrs. O'Neill, is your work, besides being educational, is it in any way connected with the amusement business?
No.
By that, I include beauty pageants and things of that sort.
Well, before you qualified your question, I would think, with your permission, that we would have to correct that answer and agree that there is some relationship, perhaps with some aspects of the work and amusement per se.
Have you any connection whatever with the Atlantic City beauty pageant, Mrs. O'Neill?
Yes, I do.
As I remember, there was a wonderful lady named O'Neill, it might be you, that escorted Miss America all around the country.
You got it. Very good, Bennett. Very good. Actually, this was an attempt to really sozzle you, you know. We were going to give you a good what for after it was all done. Mrs. O'Neill is indeed the official chaperone for Miss America. Has been for the last 5 years. And it is an element. It's got everything in it because Miss O'Neill takes Miss America all over the United States, overseas, and I'm sure has a good deal to do with the development of this young lady who was lucky enough to win this fine prize to be Miss America. And you're going to do it this week, and if I was listening closely this afternoon, there is a parade on Tuesday, and
There's
then
a wonderful night parade on Tuesday, and the preliminary judging starts on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the finals and a new Miss America on Saturday night.
And the Miss America finals will be on CBS this year.
Yes, it'll be telecast for 2 hours on CBS, and I think you're going to be one of our honored judges, aren't you, Mr.?
So watch CBS next Saturday night and look for Bennett's Cerf. Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Nice to have you with us. We'll meet tonight's mystery guest in just a moment, but first, here is a word from our sponsor. And now we come to the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity for which the panel is blindfolded. Blindfolds all in place, panel?
Yes, sir.
Good. Will you come in, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? Panel, as you know, in the case of our mystery challenger, different form of questioning, one question at a time in turn, moving clockwise. We'll begin it all with Dorothy Kilgallen.
Have I talked to you personally within the last 2 weeks?
No. Mr. Cerf?
Are you a motion picture star?
Menos o más o menos. Durante de 30 años, 89 películas.
I'll bet that means yes.
Does that mean yes or no?
That means yes. 89 pictures in 30 years. Miss Francis?
Have you also been part of the theater in New York?
Sí.
Mr. Randall?
Is a picture of yours about to open in New York?
See?
John, were you just kidding? This isn't a real question, but were you kidding about 89 pictures in 30 years?
No, I wasn't kidding.
Or were you telling the truth?
Well, why? Yes, Kilgallen. Of course.
May I assume, then, that our guest is not what we term a leading man at the present time?
Mi esposa cree que sí.
What about your wife?
No, I think we'd have to give you a no on that, and our guest offers the testimony that his wife thinks so. Mr. Cerf.
Okay.
Have you been giving some of your best years of your life to a picture about gladiators recently?
No.
No?
2 down and
No.
8 to go, Miss Francis.
Well, in the theater, have you appeared in a success in the theater in the last, 2 years?
See?
Mr. Randall.
Are you famous for your impersonation of a great American?
Oh.
Es posible.
I think I got his voice.
Just say it.
Say it.
I think it's Ralph Bellamy.
You're right.
Hi, Ralph.
The picture is Sunrise at Campobello, is
Roosevelt, yes. Sunrise at Campobello,
You're
yes.
supposed to tell the truth, right?
Pardon?
You're supposed to tell the truth.
I told the truth.
This is a man of so many hats and so many wonderful talents. To tell the truth, of course, is one of the moments when he gives a lot of pleasure, but to know that the play, which was so wonderful on Broadway, has been transferred to the screen is great. It's with Greg Garson.
It is, and it's opening right soon. The 28th of September is our world premiere here.
I know. I saw it in the Sunday papers today, Ralph, and it's going to open in several cities all at the same time.
Yes, 7 cities.
Which gave you the most satisfaction, doing the play?
Both. It was a wonderfully rewarding experience, the whole thing. We played the play 857 times in New York and about the country. And the picture was a 14-week job, which was wonderful and rewarding in a different way. And I hope it's successful.
We went up to Nova Scotia for something.
Yes, we did, up to Campobello, where the old family home is.
There was a young man, actually, it's strange how you pick up bits of information. A young man, Tim Considine, is in.
Yes, sure.
Tim Considine came back to New York to go and see the last of the Johansson and Patterson fights.
We were
And he'd
on our
come
way back from location.
That's right, he'd come back from location and told us he'd been up in
That's
Nova
right.
Scotia.
John, I wonder if the public knows that not the least among Ralph's distinctions is that he's the president of the Actors Union.
Well, I must say this is all a little hard on Ralph, but this is a most distinguished member of his profession because he's not only a consummate artist as an actor, but he's a man of very fine intelligence and courage. He's always taken leadership in the affairs of the actors' unions, and
Very nice, John. Thank you.
And I know that it's a leadership that everybody has needed, and by golly, you've given it to them for a great many years. Yes, Dorothy?
I was just thinking that since I was dissolved in tears at the opening night of the play, Sunrise at Campobello, I wonder how many handkerchiefs I ought to bring to the opening of the movie.
I hope it's all captured and still there, Dorothy.
It was wonderful,
Hope
and
so.
your performance especially,
Nice.
Ralph.
Thank you.
Did Mr. Sherry direct it, or
No, Vincent
produce it?
Donahue directed it, but Dory was there on the set all through
bet
it.
he was.
and Very helpful, yes.
And wait, that's Spanish. Oh, that's
Well,
man.
it's a good thing we didn't get too deeply
Didn't
into
get
it.
to this. I must say, Ralph is very kind. He'd give you one of those runs of Spanish and lean over and give me the translation.
I asked
just
if
as
you
though I didn't know
understood.
Spanish. Why? Habla español.
Not my kind, you don't know.
Ralph, thanks very much
Nice
for
to
being
see
our
you.
guest. Glad to have you on What's My Line. And we'll be back after this word from our alternate sponsor. And good night, Miss Arlene Francis.
Oh, good night, John, dear. And good night, Tony. Happiness.
Thank you. Good night, Arlene.
Is it thing called
Good night, Dorothy.
Good night, dear Tony. Good night, Bennett.
No more of that Yorkshire stuff, John. Good night.
I haven't said another word.
I
now,
didn't
have
want
I? Goodbye, Barrow. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being with us on What's My Line.
What's My Line is a CBS television network production in association with Mark Goodson and Bill Todman. Hal Sin speaking.